let's say you just had a school exam, and in that exam there were 40 questions. So our diagram would look something like this: zero question, 40 questions. One represents a whole thing. Well, halfway is 0.5. Okay. Zero point 0.5 is like zero point 0.50. So you would look at two digits here. So this would represent 50%, halfway. This is different from the 5%. 5% is 0.05. You would look at this here, two digits after the decimal. So this here would represent 5%. 0.5 is the same as 0.5 is the same as 0.50. Okay, but when someone write 0.5, it's imagine there's a zero there. Okay, so or if you have 0.4, you can imagine there's a zero here. So it's really 40%. 0.4 is really 40%. Okay, so 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 in this exam here, you let's say you've got 20 out of 40. Well, 20, 0 is down here. 40 questions will be up here. Well, you've got 20 out of the 40. So, well, 0 down here, 40 is up here. Halfway in between will be 20. So if you got 20 correct in this exam here, you would have got, in effect, 50%. Okay. So on our diagram, the left-hand side here represents the real life value here. So it could be anything. In this case, it's exam. In this case, it's exam questions. So 40 is the total total number of questions. So let's say you've got 31 questions correct out of 40 out of 40. So this is 20. This is 40. 30 is somewhere here. Well, you've got 31, so you're slightly above the 30 mark. So 31 here. Well, what would represent the 31 mark here? So what you do is with percentages, it's always part divided by the whole. Always. So this thing here is the whole. Okay, your whole amount, and this is your part. This is what you got correct. So if you got 31 correct out of 40 questions, then what decimal would represent this scale here? So jump to a calculator and clear 31 divided by 40 divided by 40 equals 0. I'm going to push this up, so it's 0.78. So it's 0.78. Okay, so this in effect is 78%. So if you got 31 out of 40, you can tell your parents that you've got 78% correct in the test. You see, this percent here is a lot more useful than telling your parents, oh, I got 31 out of 40. Yes, it's still useful, but it's not as good as telling them, oh, you've got 78%. Because let's look at something similar. Hang on. Let's say you've got another exam here, and there were 728 questions, and let's say you've got 31 correct. Okay, 31 correct. So what would, so 0 here, 1 here. 1 would we are now talking about a different exam. So you've got 31 out of this whole thing here. So this would be, hang on, jump to a calculator, clear this. 31 divided by the whole thing, which is 728. Okay, so this here would be, hang on, this is 0.04, so it's 0.04. See, if you got 31 out of this whole thing here, you would have got 4. Well, this 0.04 here is actually 4%. So by you telling your parents, oh, I've got 4% here, this is really useful, a lot more useful than 30 to 1 over this thing here. Telling your parents this, your parents your parents wouldn't have a good idea of what's going on. You see, by telling them, in this case here, the first case, by telling them you've got 78%, it means that out of the whole thing here, you've got, well, 0.78 is quite high up. It's up here somewhere. Whereas down here, if you tell them you've got 4%, they don't really need to know how many questions there are. But when you tell them you've got 4% here, the inside their mind, they would see this whole scale here, and 4% is down here somewhere. So they will immediately know that 4% is pretty bad because it's down here. By telling them you've got 78%, so they will immediately know that, oh, it's quite high up, without actually knowing how many questions there were, or how many you got right. By just telling them one number, this number here, 78%, they will visualize this. Well, in effect, they know it's pretty high up because 0.78 is really high up, whereas this thing here, 0.04, it's 0.04 is somewhere down here. So they know immediately, just from the 4% here, they would immediately know that it's bad. If it's 78 here, they would know it's pretty good. It's quite high up. Okay. So remember, with our diagram here, on this side here, on this side we will use decimals to represent our scale. So 1 represents a whole thing, 0 represents nothing, 0.5 is halfway, 0.25 is like 25%, is down here somewhere, and 0.7 on this side here, 0.75 will represent around here, and on the left hand side will represent our real life value. So here it represents 40 questions, 31 questions, 20 questions, 0 question. Okay, so in the next video I will give you some more examples.